Hello guys, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I have my May wrap-up and my June and July TBR. I'm filming this video in a couple different parts so that I can get out my thoughts while they're fresh on my wrap-up stuff. So today I'm just going to be filming a few bits on some short stories that I've read so far. One thing that I do love about joining BookTube is that I've been reading a lot more short stories with people or for challenges that people have put out, and it's just a way of creating community. So the first story that I read is called The Shot by Alexander Pushkin, and I was reading this because I was talking with Una about reading some Russian short stories, and it turns out that he will be reading this story and discussing it with Crypto in June. I wanted to just talk about it here. I cannot wait to hear their thoughts on the story. My first read through, I was a little bit surprised about the ending because it doesn't have your traditional shock and surprise or like confusion ending that I'm so used to with modern short stories. I think it's just an earlier style of writing short stories. But that doesn't mean it's a bad story. It's actually quite psychologically acute, and it's very clean. The story was published in 1916, and it's about a young military man, some kind of Russian armed force. And they live in a little village, and this young man is really bored along with his buddies. But he has a whole lot of respect for one of his buddies named Silvio, who is just like a crack shot. He's always like shooting the walls, and nobody would hesitate to let him shoot an apple off of their head. He's that good. So he just has a lot of respect for his friend until one day when his friend is insulted and he doesn't stand up for himself to duel somebody else. And so he loses some respect for Silvio. And before Silvio ends up leaving this regiment, Silvio tells him that actually why he didn't fight that duel is because he has no right to risk his own life, because 6 years ago he was insulted and his enemy still lives. So this is a story of revenge, and it talks about what makes life meaningful, when life becomes meaningful, and what honor means, and what sort of things that you can lay to a person's conscience so that they will remember you. I think Silvio's goal in this story is to be remembered with respect. And I think the way Pushkin created this character, it's a pretty interesting character study. I think it's a great story, and I cannot wait to see the Codex Cantinus breakdown of this. Going back through it again, definitely I like it more the second time through, because I can see how the story is crafted and put together the second time through, whereas the first time through I was just like, oh well, that wasn't really surprising. And I'm just used to that shock at the ending. It's a different kind of short story, but it's still quite a good one. And also, Ramsey at Rajathon just put out a challenge to read 2 stories or 2 books or whatever according to 2 themes. And the first theme was First Contact. So I read the micro story They're Made Out of Meat by Terry Bisson. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah. It was hilarious, extremely short, and free online, and it's essentially trying to give a theory for why there are so many people who claim they've been abducted by aliens and probed and then returned to Earth. It's explaining that. Very funny. Highly recommend. It took me like 5 minutes to read. It was a real easy read. And the second theme that Ramsey chose was the Paranormal Detective. So for this I read a very intriguing letter from the Roman lawyer and writer Pliny the Younger. Or Pliny the Younger? I don't know if it's Pliny or Pliny.
Undergrad.
In this letter, Pliny is writing to a friend, and he's asking his friend, do you believe in the supernatural? Because here's 3 stories of why I kinda do. And he's pretty much just begging his friend to like put his mind at ease. So he tells these 3 stories of ghostly encounters. He's kind of detected out the truth as much as he can, and so now he's writing to his friend and he's continuing his investigation. So I'm totally counting this for paranormal investigations. Also very short, also very fun. So thank you for the challenge, Ramsey. I don't think I ever would have actually read those if you hadn't given the challenge. And I kind of got the idea for looking for like older stories that are free online from Emma at Bookish Princess, because that's what she does a lot of times for readathons. She's just like, okay, I'll find short stuff on Gutenberg. And I really love doing that. It's just so fun to dig up something old. If you don't know Ramsey, by the way, he's doing a science fiction and fantasy book club on bookeclub.com, and you can check out the link on his channel, which I will link down below. He's done some great book picks before, and he's trying to get some discussion going on the website. So if you want to read some science fiction and fantasy with us, head on over there. Some great collabs have come out of that book club already. He's done collabs about Dune, a collab about The Way of Kings, and probably more that I'm not even aware of. I just read Dune for this book club. And next, I believe we're reading the first book in Brian McClellan's series, the Powder Mage series, which has been on my TBR ever since I started reviewing fantasy fiction, like way back in 2015. So many people were talking about Brian McClellan and how good he is, is, and he came out of BYU, and he was a student of Brandon Sanderson, and so I just have wanted to read him for a long time. I'm super excited that that is the book club choice next. Head on over there if that sounds good to you. Okay, it is now the 23rd, and I just wanted to share with you my thoughts on Dear Brooke, which I finished a couple nights ago. It was the read-along pick with Kate Howe. Dear Brooke by Harriet Martineau is a very large book about two sisters who have just moved to a very rural town to live with some distant relatives. And the plot is kind of like a romance drama kind of plot about persecution in village life. I believe the sisters are dissenters as well as the family they're staying with, which is a big deal in Victorian England. It's like a dissenting religion. And so they face some persecution for that and for political beliefs, and all the bad things that could happen to people almost happened. It was just such a thoughtful read. There were so many moments that I just loved. And I'll probably share like a quote or two here that I put on Instagram just to give you an idea what the beautiful writing is like. There is some great disability rep in here. Also, I want to talk about some of the other things that I will be reading. Next month, I will obviously be starting Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which it will be a reread for me. We're going to be doing Stormalong 2020. If you haven't heard about that, that's a read-along being co-hosted by myself, Victoria from A Musical Bookworm, Michael from Michael Nip, and Ryan from Seeking Stories. Ryan of the Sword. And if you haven't seen Ryan's announcement video, it is the funniest thing. So clever. I recommend checking out his announcement video if you haven't heard of Stormalong 2020. We'll be doing live shows every 2 weeks together. It's gonna be awesome. I will also be reading The White Lotus Sutra for a read-along with Noah at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse, and if I get a chance, I'll be reading the first sutra in the book as well, but the read-along is specifically for the White Lotus Sutra, which is the middle, the second sutra, and that's going to be my big priority. If you're interested in joining us, it is an open read-along. I'll put the announcement video up here or here. I can never tell when I'm filming because right and left is hard. I'm sure I'll be reading another couple of short stories with the Codex Cantina this month, and maybe with Brian from Brian of Bookish. He's usually doing like a short story every month, and I have been reading along with him, although I haven't really been discussing it because I am just sorry. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm like so overloaded, but I'm enjoying your videos. You'll probably see me in another outfit now. Hey, what's up guys? It is now June 2nd, and yes, I am running late on my wrap-up and TBR. I'm running a little bit late on most things at the moment because Stormalong 2020 is here. So exciting. And also, wrapping up the Hunchback of Notre Dom with Melanie was a blast. And with our last live stream in the group, Michael was on there chatting with us, and it was so much fun. Melanie and I just did the review and discussion like 2 days ago, and wow, so much fun. I feel like it went really well. Oh, and I got headphones. These are actually my husband's. They have a mic in them, so I'm hoping that this will make it easier for me to film outside without the wind making my voice disappear. Let's see, what else is going on? Lindsey Ray is back. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. I used to watch her long before I joined BookTube. She does a lot of fantasy and science fiction reviews, and she just reads a lot. She reads really fast and lots of popular things, which is, it's nice to watch that because I don't read a lot of the popular things, but I like to keep tabs on it a little bit for when I do work at the library. That was like my dream job. She's been gone for like 4 years. She just stopped making videos one day, and now she's back. I was pretty excited about that. What else happened? Oh yeah, so okay, The Hunchback of Notre Dom. I loved it. It was a very tragic tragedy. More tragic than I had anticipated, even having watched Carla from Race to Walk's vlog twice. I actually watched it more than twice, I think. I really enjoyed hearing her thoughts on The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and there were some like spoilers in that vlog, but I still didn't anticipate it being quite as tragic. So it's really about 4 men vying for the attention of young gypsy girl Esmeralda, who's about 16, and everybody is so flawed. Every character is very flawed, but one character has like a pure and noble heart. It was a wonderful story. Definitely enjoyed it. Definitely can understand why it was a classic. It's very anti-death penalty and very critical of the establishment of the time. This was written in 18 1831, I believe, in France by Victor Hugo, who was a big member of the Romantic movement there. It definitely works as a romantic piece of fiction, not romantic the way we think of romantic, but romantic the way he introduces it in his introduction to the play Cromwell. He lays out what romanticism is. Amazing story. I cried a lot, and I loved breaking it down so thoroughly with my friends and just chatting about it every week. It was really just a refreshing way to read such a wonderful classic. There was some hard stuff in the book, but overall it was definitely worth reading. I also finished Dune. This one I still haven't gone through the notes and created a review. This was really interesting. I had trouble getting emotionally into it. I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff about it, so I need to watch more in-depth reviews and see exactly what I'm missing. But I did really enjoy learning about the Fremen culture, which is the culture that lives on Dune and lives despite the lack of water. They're extremely intelligent and resourceful people to be able to live on this desert planet. And I like the vision for the future of, well, I don't want to ruin things for you. There's also a prophecy trope, which I thought was going to be more like a fantasy prophecy trope, but no. The religion in this book is freaky and totally just not good. I'm sorry, I'm not sounding very prepared. I normally would have put together a script, but I just don't even have time right now. Very interesting book. It follows the development of a leader on Dune who pretty much confronts all of the evil leaders that are trying to colonize this planet for their own desires. My favorite things about it, honestly, are the appendixes. I loved the ecology of Dune and the religion on Dune. And I haven't read the report on the Bene Gesserit, which is the religious creepers in there. But I really loved the appendix from what I've read so far. The world building is just amazing. Great book. I don't know how I would star rate it because, again, I feel like it's a classic that I need to dig further into to really understand before I offer final thoughts on it. For maybe Midrash and also for Maze for magazines, these suffered greatly this month. I thought I was going to have more reading time because I was getting really good at protecting that reading time every day and making sure that I was getting in at least an hour, maybe 2 every day of reading time. But that just didn't happen towards the end of the month. As Stormalong 2020 got closer and closer, I just had to figure out so many different digital platforms that I did not have enough time for reading. So I did get farther in the Revelations of Divine Love, and I decided that my problem is reading this translation while also listening to another translation. It's hard for me to resolve them in my head. I was just having a really hard time with this one. I did get pretty far. It's just that it's not working for me right now. Maybe at some point I can come back to it and it'll work because I'm really close to finishing it. It feels really stupid to be like, oh, I just couldn't finish the last 50 pages. But honestly, that's just how it is right now. I did start City of God by St. Augustine. I read the preface. That's as far as I got. I had decided to switch from Revelations of Divine Love to The City of God. And that was not hard to read at all. That was very easy to read. And it included page-length excerpts of St. Augustine actually talking. So I think that one's actually going to be easier for me to read. It's just argued more sensibly to me to where I can just follow it better. However, like I said, I didn't get very far, so I didn't actually complete the Maybe Midrash challenge. I did finish The Hunchback of Notre Dom, and it was very critical of the church. I don't think there was really any good church characters in that story, and in fact, the main villain is of the church. I definitely feel like that was a good one for Maybe Midrash. We really dug into the psychology of a priest in The Hunchback of Notre Dame and what made him fall. Fascinating stuff. I really do wish, though, that I had been able to finish the nonfiction challenge for Maybe Midrash. And for Maze for magazines, Faith, I'm so sorry, I didn't get very far. I read one Federalist paper. And again, I wanted to read more, and if I had actually had the reading time protected in my evenings, I definitely would have, because I loved the one paper that I read. It was so good. I put a quote from Instagram, and I'll put it right here for you. So I read Federalist Paper number 1, the general introduction. It was brilliant. It's introducing why the authors of these letters are going to be writing to the public. They're trying to introduce the Constitution and all of its concepts to the public, essentially. And there's this wonderful quote about how nobody understands everything, and so we should all be a little more humble about our political beliefs. And I was like, yes, thank you! For in politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and sword. Heresies in either can rarely be cured by persecution. So true, right? Maybe this sounds naive, but it sounds centrist to me, a political noob, because it talks to people who are afraid of governmental power, and it talks to people who would use that power too often. It talks to both sides of the divide. Essentially, governmental control is the main issue that divides the two parties, and both parties are addressed in Federalist number 1. And basically it calls for moderation between the two, which I love. Okay, and as for my TBR, I think I already told you guys what I'm reading, but I got the Lotus Sutra. So excited. So it's already the 2nd and I haven't started it yet. Noah has given us a fantastic introduction in the Voxer group. I really just can't wait to get started on this. I will be reading some stories from my writing partners, and I'm just really excited about that. I was just really wishing that I could join Rainy from Rainy Day Reads, and I know Literary Laborers, and there's 2 more channels too that are hosting and I Capture the Castle read-along later in June, and it's like a week, and they have a bingo card, and it's so cute, and I really just want to do it and support them because I really love those 2 channels, and I probably love the other 2 as well if I knew who they were. I'm sorry, I'm not scripted. I really wish I could join them because I do want to read I Capture the Castle, but I'm afraid of making any more commitments this month because I know that the Lotus Sutra is going to take some time and reflection and quiet, and I know the Way of King is just going to take a lot of reading time. So I'm absolutely positive that I will not have more time this month for another book. But if anybody's interested in reading that, I do recommend going and checking out their channels and doing it with them. They sound like such a fun group. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm sorry this is so all over the place. I did read some short stories. I read Two Deer by Leo Tolstoy, which Noah at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse and the boys at the Codex Cantina read and discussed, and that was a really interesting story. Quite comedic. It sort of criticizes the idea that our justice systems can ever really be just. Also, Rashomon, which was another story that the Codex Cantina did. I don't know if I've ever read any short stories from any Asian literary canon, not really that I can recall. And this one was beautiful. I didn't really understand it, although I was disturbed by it my first time through, but I didn't understand it until watching the Codex Cantina's video about it and talking with Una about the way the symbolism kind of shifts and changes, and yeah, beautiful and disturbing. And I also read The Jilting of Granny Weatherall, which Brian of Bookish was doing on his channel, and I'm listening to the video right now. There we go. See, that's my video that I have up right now. So hopefully I can comment on that soon because I really am interested in hearing Brian's take on that. So that is my extremely chaotic and unscripted wrap-up to the wrap-up. I think what will be coming soon on this channel is I have a few collabs left on the Hunchback of Notre Dom to put out. I would really like to do Dune at some point, but honestly I don't know when that's going to happen. I think it's the 18th. We're going to have our first live stream about Stormalong, and then 2 weeks later we'll have another one of those. So that's what's coming up for me. Really, a lot of my energy right now is going into the book group and also my writing group. So anyway, that's enough rambling. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. I hope you'll talk to me in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that I read. If you read anything from maybe Midrash or May is for Magazines, please let me know. And I do recommend going and checking out Faith's channel. Faith at Faith in Books is the one who did May is for Magazines, and I really just love her and I love her videos, and I don't get to watch them enough, but I do recommend her channel. She's very thoughtful, and I think May is for Magazines was such a good idea, and I wish I could have participated more in that. Okay guys, take care and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.